Chapter 4. Everett showed up early to Henson Investigations. He intended to put time, money, and effort into finding David. Bree had not seemed all that impressed with him shadowing her investigation. Therefore, Everett was going to make sure she didn't start without him. The last thing he wanted was to be left cooling his heels in her office while she was following leads. Opening the door without knocking, he spotted the assistant typing at his laptop. "Is Miss Henson in?" asked Everett. "She's getting breakfast." The man frowned and adjusted his glasses. "Can I help you, or do you want to take a seat and wait for her?" "I will wait," Everett said curtly. Now that he was here, he was impatient to get started and a little annoyed at the delay. The fact that Bree was out on a useless task that she could have given her underling didn't sit well with him. He was used to paying for top quality. He wanted efficiency and results. Checking his watch, Everett sat in the comfortable chair. He waited for 5 minutes. Surely she could have just had breakfast sent over to the office. It would have been much more expedient. Everett took out his phone, scrolling through his emails. He worked on having his files and belongings from his apartment sent back to New York. The European division of Ramsley Insurance was shutting down. He notified the landlord that he was breaking the lease on the office building in Europe and would be willing to pay the penalty that the lawyers negotiated. 10 minutes later, still no Bree. Everett sent notices to the few employees that he had overseen. They would get ample severance packages to soften the blow of unemployment. He notified his assistant to hire someone to clean out the office properly and send all relevant information to him. 15 minutes later, Everett checked his watch again and put his cell phone away. This was ridiculous. How did someone run a business like this? He scowled. Everett was just about to say something to the assistant when the door flew open and Bree entered, throwing a bag on the desk. She popped out her earbuds as she set a tray of coffee cups down. "It's about time," Everett commented as he looked at her jogging gear. "Oh!" Bree jumped about a mile, swirling around to find him sitting in the chair. "What are you doing here?" "I'm helping you to find my uncle, remember?" dryly said Everett. "If you would just check your texts, you would know he was here," Marty told her as he grabbed a coffee and delved into the bag, pulling out a breakfast burrito. "Did they have the extra secret sauce?" "I am so glad I am not going to be in the office today." Bree handed him a container. "Could we get to the matter at hand?" Everett ignored the good smells coming from the bag. He already had breakfast. "What are we doing today to try to find David?" "I thought first I would have breakfast because I don't think well on an empty stomach," Bree told him. "Then I'd like to take a shower because I stink. While I'm doing those two momentous things, you can call Craymern and set up a time to talk to him." "You're going to go home and take the time to shower?" Everett shot her a disbelieving look. "What time does your workday start around here?" "Soon," prevaricated Bree. "And I'm not going home. There's a shower here, and I have some changes of clothes here, too." "A shower here?" frowned Everett. "Sure, you try being a bounty hunter. Some people don't have the best hygiene," Bree told him. "It's super convenient to have a shower here. I can run to work, shower, and change here, then be ready for the day." "Is this really a professional agency?" Everett asked the assistant. "No," responded Marty, wiping sauce off his chin with a napkin. "Yet you hired us, and you won't go back on your word." Bree smiled smugly. "I might be unconventional, but I get results." "That remains to be seen." Everett grimaced. He wondered what he had committed himself to. Maybe he should look at hiring more than one agency at a time. Make it a true race to see who caught David first, with the promise of a hefty bonus. "Just call Craymern." Bree grabbed a burrito. "There's an extra in the bag if you want one." She left the room, closing the door behind her as she munched on breakfast. Everett gave in to temptation, snagging the extra burrito, unwrapping it and taking a bite. It was good. "What is in the special sauce?" "It's extra secret sauce. No one knows because it's a secret," Marty informed him. "I have tried recreating it with no success." "Can I try it?" Everett raised an eyebrow. "Sure. If you promise not to get all mushy over Bree. Marty dipped the last of his burrito, popping it into his mouth. I have no intentions of getting all mushy over Bree, frowned Everett. You say that now, but I know Bree. She flirts. She is cute. She can be beautiful when she chooses. She's also super bad taking down the tough guys. You say you won't fall for her, yet eventually everyone does, remarked Marty. I just don't want to see you hanging around her like some lost puppy dog when David is captured and this is all done. I will be fine, Everett assured him. He had been around much more beautiful and sophisticated women. Bree wasn't his type. Marty slid the special sauce to the side of the desk, shrugging. Don't get mad at me when I say I told you so. The ones with the most pride tend to fall harder. Nothing is going to happen. Everett dipped his burrito, tentatively tasting the sauce. That is very good. No, that is magnificence in a plastic container, Marty corrected him. He took a sip of coffee and began working at his computer again. Dipping again, Everett had to agree that the sauce had a sort of afterbite that was enjoyable. He gave Marty a glance, wondering if the guy had a crush on Bree. It would be pretty funny if he did. Finishing breakfast, Everett pulled out his cell phone to make the call to Craymern. Dan, it's Everett. I'd like to set up an appointment to talk to you today. There's been a new development. He left a voicemail. Bree returned looking fresh in new clothes. What did Craymern say? Voicemail, replied Everett. He eyed the coffee, but decided that since there were only two, he would not ask. Next time, he would bring his own. Do you think he would still be at his office? She questioned. Probably. This is the time where normal business people are at their businesses, dryly said Everett. Most people started work an hour ago. Funny. Bree grabbed a set of keys. Let's go see Mr. Craymern. Afterward, we can follow up with some other leads. Finally, they were going to do something, Everett thought with satisfaction. He followed Bree down the street and watched as she grabbed a ticket off the windshield of her car. Frowning, Everett checked the meter. It was broken. He got into the passenger side of the vehicle. Why would you park at a broken meter? Because it was the only available spot yesterday? Bree informed him as she leaned over to put the ticket with the growing pile in the glove compartment. I ran to work this morning, remember? You left your car overnight? I'm surprised it didn't get towed, he commented. I know the tow guy, smiled Bree. He owes me for the time I took his mother in for jumping bond. That sounds like a story. Everett's voice trailed off as he looked in surprise at the back seat. What happened here? Oh, a client did a little damage, Bree replied easily as she swung into traffic. That reminds me, we need to stop at the garage so I can order new seats. A little damage? Everett wondered what her version of a lot of damage would be as he surveyed the ripped upholstery and foam stuffing. Nothing that can't be fixed, she assured him. Following the GPS directions, she pulled into a parking garage. Credit card. Excuse me? Everett frowned, not sure of her meaning. For the machine. You are paying, Bree told him sweetly. You wanted to come. Everett pulled out his wallet, handing her a card. Bree used it for the machine, handing it back to him while she put the parking pass on the dash. Finding a spot, she pulled in. Let's go talk to Mr. Craymern. She gave him a grin and got out of the car. Everett frowned as he followed. She was getting a lot of enjoyment out of this. Going into the building, Everett led the way to the offices of the lawyer. He smiled at the secretary, telling her he had an appointment with Craymern. He didn't. However, being a Ramsley had its benefits. Rarely was he ever refused. Of course, Mr. Ramsley. Please, just have a seat while I notify Mr. Craymern that you're here. She gave him a practiced smile. Thank you, Dolores, nodded Everett. He waited patiently as she entered the office behind her desk. You know her name? Commented Bree. Of course I know her name. Everett didn't mention that it was right there on a nameplate on the desk. You haven't bothered to find out Marty's name yet, Bree remarked with a censoring look. Was that the name of the assistant she kept? Everett mentally filed the information away. It didn't come up. That doesn't mean I didn't know his name. She gave him a look like she didn't quite believe him. "Mr. Craymern is ready to see you," Dolores told them. Everett was glad for the interruption. He didn't want to face Bree's annoyance over his not bothering to remember the name of someone who he probably would never see after this week. "Craymern?" "Everett!" The older man shook Everett's hand. "Good to see you. Who is the lovely young lady?" "This is Bree." Everett deliberately didn't give her full name. He wasn't sure he wanted the lawyer to know her profession just yet. "Nice to meet you." Craymern lingered over her hand, smiling. "I might lose my bet now." "Excuse me?" Bree questioned, tilting her head a little in confusion. "I had a bet that Everett here would always be a bachelor. I can see I might be wrong." Craymern laughed at his own little joke. Bree gave a false smile, pulling her hand out of Craymern's clasp. "I wouldn't worry about that just yet." "Dan, we were wondering if we could talk to you about Uncle David." Everett decided to take charge of the conversation. "What about David?" Craymern's smile reasserted itself. "Shame he did what he did, but things were a little different back then. Less restrictive." "You are David's lawyer. Did you know about his activities? The money laundering?" Everett took a seat. "Bree, if you'll take a seat," Craymern offered, waiting for her to sit before sitting as well. "Would either of you like coffee?" "What we would like is for you to answer the questions, please," pressed Bree. "Are you sure?" Craymern asked Everett. "You wish to talk about this in front of the little lady?" Yes. Everett could feel Bree bristle beside him. He hastened to keep them on topic. "I'd like to know just how much you knew about David's endeavors." "David came to me for financial information," Craymern commented. His expression shuddered. "I provided advice in my capacity as a lawyer." "How can you be David's lawyer and represent Robert at the same time?" Bree asked with steel in her voice. "Isn't that a conflict of interest?" "I was David's lawyer, but I no longer represent him." Craymern gave her a condescending look. "Everett, it would be better if your secretary waited with Dolores." Bree completely ignored his remark, studying his face. "I'm surprised. I thought you knew David's whereabouts and were still advising him." Something undefined flickered across Craymern's face. "Everett, this woman needs to leave." "I disagree," Everett said softly, his voice deceptively mild as his eyes sharply scrutinized the man. "She asks the most interesting questions. Do you know where David is?" "I do not. I'm quite disturbed that you would ask me that." Craymern was defensive. "This interview is at a close." Craymern stood abruptly. Everett and Bree rose as well. "It would be better for you if you were truthful," Everett told him, an edge in his mild voice, his gaze boring into the lawyer. "Leave," commanded Craymern. Bree grabbed Everett by the arm. "Let's go. He isn't going to tell us anything more." "Jake will be in contact with you. I expect he'll be firing you and finding someone else to represent Dad," Everett warned him. "I'm hired by your father, not you or your brother," Craymern coldly told him. "We will see about that." Everett allowed Bree to tug him out of the office. They were quiet on the way to the car. Once in the parking garage, Bree pulled her phone out of her purse, switching it to speakerphone and hitting the voice record button. "Dolores, cancel the rest of my morning appointments." Craymern could clearly be heard. "What did you do?" frowned Everett. "Shh!" Bree covered the phone before hitting the mute button. "Bugging someone is illegal," he hissed as they got into the car, careful to shut the doors quietly. "I accidentally left a cell phone in the office. Oops, it happens all the time to people. Phones get lost every day," shrugged Bree. "Now be quiet and listen." They listened as Craymern made a call. "David, we have a problem." Bree did a fist pump in the air. "Your nephew Everett came to see me this morning. He's been talking about using you as a bargaining chip to the FBI to reduce Robert's sentence. I think he's searching for you." There was a pause. What David said was unintelligible. "I'm not concerned that he will find you," continued Craymern. "What concerns me is that he just threatened to push me off Robert's case." David's volume rose. Still, Bree could not make out the words. "I will talk to Robert, remind him what he owes," Craymern sighed. "Are you certain you don't want the records destroyed? I could have it done. It really would be for the best if they were." David growled something. "Fine. I'll pass them on to Crawford." Craymern hung up the phone, then swore repeatedly. Something shuffled around, and a door slammed shut. Bree shut off the phone with a satisfied smile. That could not have gone better. "What about the cell phone you left?" asked Everett. "Will they know it was you?" "I'll bribe the cleaning crew to look for it and return it to me." She started up the car. "If they don't, it's not a big deal. That phone can't be traced to me." "Huh." Everett blinked in surprise. She was better at this than he thought she would be. "I suppose you know who Crawford is?" Bree grinned. "Yep." "Are you going to tell me?" he asked. "Not yet," decided Bree. "Do you own a tux?" "What am I saying? Of course you own a tux." "It's back in Europe," Everett said dampeningly. "I can get one." "You'll need it for tonight," Bree cheerily told him. "What is tonight?" questioned Everett. He didn't like it when she talked in circles. "Tonight you get to pretend to be James Bond." Bree winked at him, laying on the gas as she took a turn. Everett fastened his seatbelt. He was relieved when Bree pulled up to a pay parking lot. She was a bit of a dangerous driver. "Credit card." Bree held out her hand. Rolling his eyes, Everett fished out his wallet, handing over the plastic. She swiped it through the machine and handed it back to him. "Where are we going now?" he asked. "A block down is the ever-posh Miss Everly," Bree told him as she parked, exchanging the passes in the windshield, tossing the one from Craymern's building on the floor in the back seat area. "She is expecting us." "The ever-posh Miss Everly?" Everett was amused. "Who is that?" "David's mistress." Bree jumped out of the car. Everett quickly followed. "She's willing to speak with us?" "Sure." Bree eyed his business attire. "Are you wearing comfortable shoes? You should get some. Probably should dress a little more casually as well." "You just told me to get a tux," he pointed out dryly. "That's only for tonight." Bree walked briskly. "Does Miss Everly have a first name?" Everett wondered as he easily kept pace with his longer stride. "I doubt Everly is her real name," Bree informed him. "More of a persona." "I can't believe the old man still has a mistress." Everett shook his head. "At this point, he's probably keeping up appearances as a measure of pride. Sometimes men keep on women because they've gotten used to the relationship. They can talk to this woman who knows them so well and isn't their wife," responded Bree. "You seem to know a lot about it." Everett raised an eyebrow. "Only because I happen to have to talk to a lot of women as a private investigator." She shrugged. "If men would behave and stay in their marriages, I wouldn't have to." "David sure didn't stay in his marriage," frowned Everett. "Did you ever find out which marriage is the legal one?" "Marty verified it today. So far, it looks like the marriage from Atlantic City is winning." Bree pulled open the door of a high-end apartment building. "We'll see if it holds up as we find more about your uncle." She approached the lobby security man with a disarming smile. "Hi, it's Aubrey Henson to see Miss Everly?" "Of course. Let me just check if Miss Everly is in." He gave her a friendly smile in return before going to the desk where a clerk presumably phoned Miss Everly. "It's really nice in here," Bree remarked, enjoying looking at the impressive decor of the lobby. "There's a fountain." Everett watched her in amusement as she openly admired the fountain. "There are fish in here." Bree leaned over, fingering the vegetation. "You have a thing for fish?" he questioned. "They are almost the perfect pet. If I didn't have to clean the aquarium, I would get one," she confided. "It's about my level of responsibility. I'm not much of a nurturer." "Miss Henson, you can go up." The security guard had returned. "Thank you." Bree followed the man to the elevator. As Everett made to join her, the guard held up a hand to stop him. "Sorry, just Miss Henson," the man told Everett. Everett was surprised. I'm with Miss Henson." "Again, just Miss Henson." The man pointed to the lobby. "We have some fine areas to sit while you wait." "I'm sure that if you ask Miss Everly, she'll be happy to let me come upstairs." Everett was terse. Miss Everly was explicit. "Only Miss Henson, not you, Mr. Ramsley," the security guard told him. "I didn't tell you my name." Everett was immediately suspicious. "Miss Everly recognized you over the video system," the guard explained. "It will be fine," Bree assured him. "I'll let you know exactly what she says." Everett gave an irritated nod. He watched Bree enter the elevator before returning to the seating area to listen to the now annoying tinkling of the fountain. Taking out his cell phone, he resolved to get some work done while he waited. When the elevator reached the top floor, Bree was taken to a door with a camera and a buzzer system. The security man buzzed her in, holding the door open for her. "Thank you." Bree gave him a generous smile before entering the foyer. There were marble floors, columns, and skylights. Exploring further, she found a beautiful living room full of tasteful tans and creams with a grand piano. "Outside, darling," a voice floated back to her. Bree found her way to a series of French doors. Miss Everly was sitting at a wrought iron bistro set, sipping coffee in a silk robe on the rooftop. There was a small infinity pool overlooking the city. Bree tried not to let her jaw drop. A pool on the roof? For a mistress? How much was David paying her? "Would you like a coffee?" asked Miss Everly, pulling off her large sunglasses. Even in her 50s, she still looked gorgeous. "Have a seat." "Sure." Bree sat down at the little table. "Thank you." "Elon, bring a coffee. How do you like yours? Cream? Sugar?" she inquired politely, her finger on a small gadget. "Sugar," Bree responded. "Please." "Bring some of those macaroons as well." Miss Everly took her finger off the button. "They are fresh made and absolutely to die for." "That sounds lovely." Bree noted that it was nearly silent up here, the noises of the city contained below. "He looks a lot like David used to," she remarked as she sipped her drink. "Excuse me?" Bree questioned, a little lost. "The man downstairs in the lobby. I assume he's related?" She raised an eyebrow. "David's nephew, Everett Ramsley," confirmed Bree. "David was such a good-looking man," sighed Miss Everly. "He has preserved himself very well. However, back then he was handsome. The women flocked to him. Who wouldn't? He had power, looks, charm, and money." "Where did you meet him?" Bree didn't want to interrupt this stroll down memory lane. Miss Everly was volunteering information, and once talking, Bree had found that people liked to unburden themselves to her. "At a fundraiser. I scooped him up right under his wife's nose." She had a nostalgic smile. "It was a bit of a scandal, but you know how polite society is. If they can ignore the unpleasantness, they will. The wife ignored me very well, up until that interview on television, where she denounced David for the man he is." Miss Everly had a musical laugh. "Silliness. We all knew David was enjoying the company of any woman he could. He is a man, and they think only of themselves." Bree wondered what experiences had clouded this woman's judgment. Yes, she did sometimes find men a little selfish, but then she wondered if women didn't condition them to be that way. Women were by nature nurturers and catered to their men. However, Bree had seen many relationships where caring men were committed and invested. "How young were you when you met David?" "I was 20 and looking for a meal ticket." Miss Everly motioned to the beautifully landscaped rooftop. "I certainly found it." "Madame, your coffee and macaroons." A thin man came forward with a tray, carefully setting the items on the bistro set. He gave them a little nod before leaving. "I think I might live better than the wife." She picked up a macaroon, delicately taking a bite. Then again, a woman only gets what she demands. "What will you do now that David's on the run?" Bree took a sip of coffee. It was gourmet stuff, almost too good. She was used to the quick java of the coffee shops. He's still depositing money into my accounts, so I suppose I will wait until that stops, or he dies, shrugged Miss Everett. I'm rich enough I don't need to take on another lover. This was my career, and I did a fine job of it. Now I can choose to retire. It sounded a little cold to Bree. Do you happen to know where David might be? She smiled as she sipped more coffee. When you first proposed speaking to me, I thought, no, I won't talk to the very people that want to take David away. Then the novelty of speaking to a bounty hunter made me reconsider. I thought, why not? I'm sure I don't know anything much that can lead you to David. I suppose I should apologize. I have no idea where the man is. I just wanted to talk to you for a bit of fun. Did he mention anywhere he liked to vacation? A place where he went to get away from everyone? Questioned Bree. He went everywhere. David flew for business all the time, and he had his own private jet. Miss Everett shrugged lightly. He never mentioned where he was going or what he was doing. I admit, I didn't ask. When is the last time you saw him? Bree wanted to know. She thought about it for a moment. 2 weeks ago. He's an infrequent visitor. Mostly he comes to swim in the pool and boast about things or complain. David didn't like how Michael was running the company. He was ecstatic when his eldest was put in prison. He said it served Michael right for blackmailing him out of the company and for marrying that tart. David's words, not mine. He didn't like Anne? Bree raised an eyebrow. Anne had been very nice and accommodating to Bree, who had been an unexpected guest just yesterday. She had been the perfect hostess, making Bree feel welcomed into the family fold. She rejected David's advances. It was years ago. Miss Everett shrugged. Put him in a snit for nearly a month. David isn't used to being refused. But that's the thing with him. Just when you think he's finally forgotten some wrong done against him, he strikes like a viper. David likes a cold revenge. I suppose it wasn't just revenge against Michael, but against Anne as well. He nearly ruined their lives. He sounds a little scary. Bree frowned, wondering what she might have gotten herself into. She reminded herself that she needed to pay the bills, and this promised to be a big payday if she could deliver on David. Darling, if you manage to catch him and put him in prison, Miss Everett swung her cold gaze to focus on Bree, I would watch your back for the rest of your life. Even when David is dead, I have the feeling he'll still be reaching out from amongst the graves. A chill raced along Bree's spine. If you enjoyed this chapter of In Pursuit of a Billionaire, Book 8 of the Ramsay Brothers series, look for Chapter 5. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, where you'll find chapters dropping each week, contests, promotions, and more. Hit the little bell to notify you when new videos come. Happy listening!